glitch is finally gone! Patch 1.13, it's here, and it addresses quite a few issues we've discussed in previous videos. So let's not waste any time, and let's get right into the juicy bits to later discuss the most general changes. The biggest, most important fix of them all is that the chainsaw glitch is finally gone. For those of you who don't know, this was the chainsaw glitch. It happened when you switched between certain weapons and the Serpent Hunter during a specific animation, resulting in this monstrosity. Well, we are very happy to say that you no longer can switch weapons during these animations. So the glitch is gone, until someone figures out something else. The Cancer Shotgun crossbow has been tremendously nerfed. With the correct equipment and talismans, the user will need at least 5 shots to put you to sleep. Even when up close and having no anti-sleep stuff, it won't put you to sleep in 1 shot. So, thanks a lot, Miyazaki. Nanaya's torch now deals very little madness build-up. It takes a lot of shots to mold anyone, even without anti-madness equipment. Still, chase. This won't stop us from claiming our well-deserved Nanaya's torch video. Swift Slash took a considerable nerf in its range, while also increasing its recovery time. Sadly, the recovery portion of the nerf is not noticeable. Swift Slash is still strong and needs more adjustments to not be completely overpowered. Impenetrable Thorns has suffered a big nerf on its damage. It can no longer one-shot players at any distance, nor insta-bleed them. So yeah, while it's still not bad, it's not the monster that it was before. Sorry if that upsets you. I guess. Now that we've got the juiciest bits out of the way, let's go into the most important general changes, which also include very interesting changes and buffs to previously unremarkable weapons. The poise damage of the following weapon types has been increased to match the rest of the roster. This includes the light great swords, which will stagger with every hit if you have under 98 poise. The backhand blades, the martial arts, which will now always stagger with the one-handed moveset as long as the enemy doesn't have max poise, and the beast claws. The poise damage of classic weapons' power-stanced attacks has been increased. A welcome change, of course, since they felt a little bit underwhelming in the previous patch. The Claws of Night received a buff to the poise damage of all of its throwing attacks. But I think they did just the opposite. Even when the enemy is naked, they receive no poise damage at all. This must have been a mistake. How did they even miss this? The backstep iframes of the fine crucible feather talisman were supposedly decreased. Before the nerfs, with the correct setup, you were able to backstep through the chainsaw glitch on low latency unharmed. After the nerfs, honestly, we don't see it. Savage Lion's Claw was adjusted to make the second hit easier to land, but at the same time, they made the second part not combo with the first one. So in conclusion, the Ash of War was nerfed for PvP, which is odd, because it wasn't that great to begin with. Raging Beast and Blind Spot received the same nerf to their iframes window. Before, you could literally play by mashing your head against the control when using Blind Spot and still win.
Here you go.
Now, the dodge timing is much tighter, so monkey mashing is not an option anymore. Palm Blast supposedly took a nerf to its hyper armor, but we don't really see it. It's still super tanky when charging up the attack. Miriam's Vanishing supposedly also took the same nerf as Blind Spot, but we believe the spell is still very good. For the last PvP exclusive change, Knight's Lightning Spear received adjustments, but overall, performance-wise, this is a nerf, as the reduced poise damage now allows for the enemy to dodge if the first Lightning Spear hits. Euphoria now takes less hits to charge, has increased holy damage when it's fully charged, and the duration of the special buff was increased. Does this make the weapon viable? Not really. It's still quite mid, to be honest. Lightspeed Slash, which was the slow-in-the-mind brother of Promised Consort, received a nice damage buff. The additional light attacks are now affected by the attack power and ability scaling of the weapon. This basically translates to more damage, baby. Is it now as good as Promised Consort? Not really. It just has a different functionality. The Ash of War from Rakshasa's Great Katana received a noticeable speed buff that now makes it viable for on-reaction trading. It's still not the best thing in the world, but it's certainly a nice buff. The Ash of War of Poleblade of the Bud now has considerable hyper armor. It doesn't make the thing great, but it's a thing that the skill should have had from the beginning. The Ash of War of the Red Bear's Claw received a huge buff. The skill now grants considerable hyper armor and deals a buttload of damage. We didn't do much testing, but we'll be certainly coming back to this skill to try out more stuff, as it looks quite promising. The Bone Bow's aimbot Ash of War received a massive status build-up nerf. Now you need like a kajillion arrows to trigger the status effects. The Shield of Night received a very juicy damage buff to its special guard counter. Sadly, it is not affected by the guard counter talisman, so we don't know how effective it would be in guard counter builds. Glintblade Trio received a damage buff.
Okay.
Blades of Stone receive many changes, which sadly don't address how Dogwater the spell really is. Glintstone Nails have more damage and tracking. Rings of Spectral Light is terribly bad. And Vortex of Putrescence now deals a fair bit more damage. The Spira incantation received an attack speed buff, and let me tell you, this will make gank squads extremely asinine to deal with. Watchful Spirit is a complete and absolute joke, even with its new improved tracking.
What the hell was that?
I want some of what that they were smoking when they came up with this piece of garbage. This has to be the worst thing in the whole game at the moment.
Disgusting.
Divine Beast Tornado now deals more damage and is less likely to disappear due to collision with the terrain. The part about enemies being launched upwards on hit is only true for PvE enemies. Rain of Fire now deals damage. Yep, it is now functional. Roar of Rugalea is very interesting now. It deals significantly more damage and knocks back people in the direction you're facing. So this thing can be quite good to throw people off ledges now. Furious Blade of Ansbach now works. Rotten Butterflies is now quite interesting. It deals a lot of rot build-up, and has increased range. The incantation is not fantastic, but it's significantly better than before. And out of all the bug fixes, the most remarkable one is the bug that allowed the use of great arrows on small bows. This has been fixed and is no longer possible to perform. Speaking of bugs, despite what this alleged bug fix indicates, the Circlet of Light still doesn't boost the Light of Miquella incantation. The Ansbach bow still deals absurd amounts of damage when hitting with only one arrow, and the poison perfume bottle Deathblight glitch still works. I guess they were features after all.